Good day, Internet, and welcome to CryptoTown Day 2. Today I'm going to be comparing political institutions with civil institutions. An institution is a persistent structure in society which kind of governs our behavior. For example, medicine, agriculture, government, or education. The major difference between these two approaches is their organizational structure. A political institution is based off of a hierarchy, where you have varying levels of knowledge and know-how, and the people at the bottom or at any layer looking up doesn't know what's going on. They have a limited set of information, and people at the top kind of are able to make all the decisions for the rest in whatever their capacity is. In a civil institution, you have members who are equally empowered with knowledge and access to fully participate and fully collaborate to the best of their ability. So when it comes down to it, a hierarchical structure is simply involving privacy, secrecy, possibly deception, authoritative behavior. It requires obedient personalities as opposed to individuals. And it's usually more focused on production as opposed to creation or creativity. The civil institution, on the other hand, is more motivated by typically abundance as opposed to profit or deception or exploitation. The civil institution is it's about collaboration and motivated by abundance, because that's all that people of equal peers would want to come together to simply create abundance. There's no motivation for exploitation or anything like that. So when I'm going to start by going over a few of these examples and kind of painting a bit of a picture of what they look like and what they could look like, or there is a mix of typically of political and civil action in all of these different categories. So, for example, medicine. In a political structure, you have stuff like hospitals, which are run by budgets, and there's a certain amount of authority going on, certain strictness and rigidity, laws which govern the behavior of doctors and management and professionals. In this way, there is somewhat of a limited capacity to respond, because you have people who have been educated or more likely credentialed to have their piece of paper to go into a certain position, and they are they're specialists. So in a hospital setting, you can't build enough hospitals for a pandemic, for example. This is where you would want more civil knowledge and participation and cooperation, collaboration. In this type of a case, you would want people to know how to deal with that kind of stuff. An example of a civil medicine is like first aid certification, or education, that kind of stuff, so that people in general are able to help each other. So when people are helping each other as well, they tend to do it in their own unique way. You may say that's not as safe, but when it comes down to it, having some treatment or having no treatment, or support, the general choice would be to have some form of support going on. So people tend to solve their own problems in their own unique ways, and this is a factor of diversity and resistance to certain problems, because you know that somebody somewhere is going to come up with some kind of solution for certain problems. Under the political or hierarchical setting of, say, a hospital, unfortunately, patient exploitation is a prime motive, and we see this in a lot of cases where the proper treatment isn't being taken, or they're being over medicated unnecessarily, especially you know, with things like ADD and whatnot. You know, the traditional civil remedy for such a thing may have been to simply be more active outside, or you know, engaging more in exploration type behavior, experimentation, as opposed to just being fed boring patterns. In the case of civil medicine, you would have more, you could include type of herbal type, ancient remedies, stuff that's worked forever, that a lot of that knowledge is being lost and being replaced by the hierarchy, pharmaceutical industries and whatnot, which are motivated by profit. In other words, deception and exploitation. So patient well-being is definitely a major factor. It's actually the primary motive of civil medicine. So when we look in the institution of agriculture, how are we being fed? That's pretty important. And we can see again that this is being done both politically and civilly to certain degrees of effectiveness. We're seeing ecosystem destruction from the political end, or the hierarchical end, however you want to talk about it. This is simply exploitation. It's motivated by profit. That's why you have factory farms and whatnot. They are simply trying to pump out as much product as they can to get the biggest return possible. On the other hand, when you are looking at civil remedies for this problem of food, you have a term that comes up called permaculture. And what that means is that all of your needs are being supplied locally. That includes food. This could be something like a community garden. It could be, you know, private gardens as well. But in the past, there definitely was not a huge reliance on government to provide food, and this is definitely possible. It's there is a great power in cooperation on the local level for this kind of stuff, and quite frankly, it's a critical factor of independence from this you know, profit motivated exploitation. So food is one of the main concerns. If we can provide food locally, especially through automated abundance, which technologies are coming up fast and furious, which are able to provide such things like this. Indoor greenhouses, LED technology, hydroponics. You use 1% of the water. There's no waste. You have a contained system. These things are popping up in Japan for reasons of soil quality and whatnot from radiation and stuff like that. So it may end up being a necessity that communities are going to have to come together and simply buy one of these things, get it operating locally. If you can have enough food in an area where you can no longer buy food because you can't pay for it because it's simply too abundant, this is how you overwhelm markets, and this is how you destroy the political end of the agriculture institutions. So we can also look at government, and the main modes of operation in government is that it's opaque. There are secrets. It's private. Things are being dictated on a through politics and through media, subconsciously and whatnot. And it's a bureaucracy. There's no participation aside from what song and dance has to go on to make us feel that our voice is being heard. On the other hand, there are things in government, like one example might be police force, which could be civilized. It is possible that even, and it happens all over the place. We're somewhat isolated in our worldview in North America, in that we can't imagine a neighborhood watch which is actually armed or capable of keeping things safe and doing routine checks and stuff like that. Where I personally believe this is going, as far as the civil institution, is drone technology is becoming very cheap. Soon, I imagine that local neighborhoods will get together and purchase their own drones and have something which can patrol autonomously, watch out for things happening, and the neighborhood can just sit back and, if they feel like, they can tune into the drone channel, the local security channel, and watch what's happening, or participate in ways that they feel help to make their community safer. When it comes to education, this is huge. Education is everything, because it takes the blank slate of our next generation and forms it into whatever kind of society is needing of them. So in our case, we are really talking about politics of power having permeated government, corporation, whatnot. Pretty much our entire society is, and this can't be disputed, based off of the profit motive. That is the engine that drives our economy. The profit motive itself is a formalization of a deception and exploitation seen in nature. We are basically taking the animal kingdom, as it were, as a hierarchy, you could say, and transplanting it into our society and hoping for good things to happen. So what you get out of education is people who are they are taught to memorize and repeat. They are very good at obeying instructions, and they are being credentialed into this system of who you know and how much money you have. This is basically where you're going to be placed into society. So it's a very controlled system. And essentially, students are exploited as a commodity. You just have to look at the debt problem. Student loan debt is a massive issue for kids coming out of school. They need to find a job which they've been trained all along to memorize and repeat like a robot, and now they are competing with robots, like actual robots, which are in place because the profit motive and capitalism in general is driving efficiency. So we want robotics to make a product cheaper. This is a problem in our current system where things are profit motivated. Because instead of this automation benefiting us and saying, wow, the robots are doing all the work, now I can relax. We don't say that. We say the robots are taking my job, and since I'm dependent on wage labor, I can't relax. I am on the street. So another way to look at education from the civil side is you can look at the family as having been almost a school where you learn life skills. That's pretty much a civil institution as it is. You have friends teaching each other, community members interacting and learning from one another. But the real power is going to be taking education as a whole from a political aspect and turning it into um, the civil abundance of knowledge. Students once taught are going to become teachers, and that teacher can, or those teachers can go on and teach more students, and who can in turn go and teach more. So this is a viral propagation of knowledge. And again, people might think, oh, they're not being taught the exact right thing, or it's something this or that perfectly, but do we want to be credentialed to learn how to do a certain skill, or do we want to learn how to think for ourselves and how to do things for ourselves and learn how to decide what is good information, what is bad information on our own? Overall, if our society is going to move towards decentralization, towards civil networks, this is the kind of stuff that's going to have to happen. Instead of exploiting each other for profit, instead of a monetary system which states directly that we are not equal, that the value to society is based on the numbers in our bank account and how much we can pull in. Instead of that, we're going to move to develop and protect our resources and our knowledge and our culture for sustainability, permaculture, and abundance. And that's what I have to say about that. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.